Okay, welcome back. We're here with two representatives from Trinity Irish Dance Company. Its founder, Mark Howard, and Associate Artistic Director, Chelsea Hoy. Welcome to you both. How are you today?
Good,
Well,
nice to see you. Nice
Nice
to
to
see
see
those
you.
lights on.
Yeah. It just, when I walked in the first time a couple of weeks ago too, it was just like, my shoulders relaxed a little bit just being in the theater and, quite honestly, hearing the percussive dance of Trinity Irish. I think it was, one of the last things I was able to see. So let's start talking about Trinity Irish history. And Mark, the other day you were telling me about all of these different influences that I hadn't expected to hear about. Um, can you kind of take us through like your ideas of forming Trinity Irish and what you were influenced by?
sure. I grew up in sort of hard scrabble Rogers Park, dancing in the back of a bar on Devon Avenue called Connolly's, but the Irish would refer to it as the Hill. Somewhere along the line, I graduated to the Dennehy Irish Dancers, which to this day are a wonderful school, driving all the way to Bridgeport. And my folks were, really excited about being in old Mayor Daley's parish and loved John F. Kennedy. I don't know if they knew anything about corruption or any of that stuff. I grew up with like thinking Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy were both Irish, like on the wall. And I can remember early on seeing Muntu African dance at a festival on Navy Pier and being fascinated with the percussion of it all and the way it stopped traffic. But I was what you call a competitive Irish dancer, not very good at it really. My history is one of like happy accidents and with a dollop of luck and really generous people in the Chicago dance community. Names like probably don't need last names: Gail, Carol, Gus, and Liz Silverstein was our first agent. I'm trying to think of all the Harrison. But in my 20s, I was actually at Ignatius High School still when I started an Irish dancing school called the Trinity Academy of Irish Dance. And somewhere my misguided enthusiasm had me thinking that we could win like America's first world title and eventually figure that out somehow. And that led to appearances on The Tonight Show, which was a real trigger moment. And that's when some of those folks in the Chicago dance community stepped in and started giving me some advice, which led ultimately to the formation in 1990 of a nonprofit Trinity Irish Dance Company. And the instinct really was to elevate the farm. Where did that word come from? Elevate the form from tradition to making sort of a jump into the concert stage. And I remember Mo Ming early on being a major thing for me. I ran into a gentleman that we just lost recently, Mike Kirkpatrick, a wonderful musician who I think he accompanied classes at Columbia, but most importantly, he was Mary Ward's boyfriend. And Mary Ward and Tim O'Sleen and Brian Jeffries and Mo Ming, profound effect on me to see the possibilities of dance and to start to be fascinated by modern movement, just in sort of a pedestrian way, something that could help me expand my vocabulary. And I remember being at Ruth Page Awards and being backstage listening to all the dancers compliment each other's work. And in sharp contrast to the way my work would be criticized in competition, I thought, oh, I want some of this. And then everybody wore black and seemed like chilled out. So I was fascinated. And that was the beginning, of that. And then, as I said, Liz became our first agent. She booked us at the Joyce Theater, which was remarkable. Later, we signed with IMG Artist Management. Today, we're with Margaret Selby, and we're touring Japan every couple of years and performing at the Auditorium Theater amongst all the other theaters in this country. That's a start.
Yeah, and that's a great start. You sort of referenced the competition side of things, and I think most folks have encountered Irish dance through one avenue or another. But as you started to talk about here, Trinity inhabits a sphere that's, more typical to contemporary concert dance. And as you mentioned, some of those venues and everything. I'm assuming that's intentional, and I'm wondering what was the rationale behind that particular kind of avenue.
Well, prior to Mo Ming, after we were on the Tonight Show, we started to get invited around the world to things like we performed for the royal family of Monaco. We danced for a guru who became a big fan of the company. It's just really strange things. We started to go to festivals that were sort of world peace festivals, and dance groups from all over the world would come. So I was influenced by Kodo Japanese drummers, Ballet Folklorico, Russian folk dance, and started to think, why not, with people here in the dance community egging me on, why not a company that's devoted to Irish dance? But again, I'm sort of handcuffed with in 2/4 and 4/4 time with Irish jigs and reels. So to go more far afield, to sort of grow as an art form, I needed to gain inspiration elsewhere, and I just sort of settled on contemporary dance. So that led me to Sean Curran, and I don't suppose that's what led us to Michelle Dorrance recently, but she knew the company when she was young, and one of her girlfriends in high school, wanted to be a member of the company. She told us recently, right, Chelsea? And so we were all on these paths that led us here, but again, all happy accidents, and much of it because of I think the unique rhythms of Chicago, the patchwork here of ethnicities, and the opportunity that comes with being separated by oceans of distance and generations of time to be Irish American and lucky to be living in an urban environment like Chicago. It led to a lot of ideas or tools that you wouldn't have if you grew up in Ireland, let's say.
And that led to the answer to the question I didn't have to ask. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I knew what you were going to ask next, I think.
Something else that Mark often says to the company when we're in creation is that it's a through line that Mark has had ever since he started the company, but he wants Irish dance to matter as art, not simply entertainment. So the Trinity Irish Dance Company is walking this fine line in a world where Irish dance, as you say, is celebrated with competition, and that's where all of our dancers grew up, gaining all sorts of skills. That's made us the dancers we are today. But then there's a lot of commercial productions, beginning with Riverdance, which was a commercial realization of one of the works that Mark created, danced on the Johnny Carson show. It's our classic piece that we continue to perform today. So those commercial productions celebrate Irish dance in an entertainment way, but we fight this battle of substance versus spectacle. And that's something that I've seen. No matter what creative process we're in, they all look very different, but no matter where we are, what we're doing, who we're working with, Mark always brings it back to how does this matter? And we want the dance world to really appreciate this in a different way than you would appreciate a Broadway production.
We're determined to not entertain, basically.
Well, you're failing miserably at that. in addition to others.
I still have time left. I'm also determined to die without eating kale. And
we were just having a conversation the other day about what we're determined not to do, but that's for another time. Chelsea, you were talking about having it matter, and you made me think of, as I mentioned, I saw the last Trinity performance you did here with, Michelle's number in it, and, being a tap dancer myself, I understand the power of percussive dance, and I'm actually used to seeing strong female tap dancers quite a bit, but I was struck, honestly, by the strength and the power of the women in Trinity, including you. I had never seen Irish dance performed quite that way before, and I'm wondering if, again, I think it's intentional, but how does that fit into this, making it matter method?
Yeah, so the Trinity Irish Dance Company does have a central mission of female empowerment. I'm happy to hear that you picked up on that. Most people do. That's something that started with the beginnings of the company, but has grown and morphed over time. We are a primarily female company, but we celebrate the power of women in a lot more ways than just numbers. So as I mentioned, these commercial productions of Irish dance unfortunately are pretty gendered, and there is a lot of objectification of women that goes on, with the women relegated to the soft shoes, the male savior coming out front. There's always a romance between a man and a woman. The Trinity Irish Dance Company really breaks down those barriers, and it's a percussive form, as you say. So growing up as an Irish dancer is a very empowering form, but we allow that form to really speak for itself. So in all of TIDC's work, the women aren't just allowed to make noise, we're very expected to make noise at every turn. We are more of a percussive company. We are starting to describe ourselves in that way. So Irish dancing has soft shoes, which look like a ballet slipper, and then we have hard shoes. So part of the unique power of the company is that there is this balance between aerial grace and percussive grounded power. But personally, I can attest to that the power that we project is definitely also felt internally on stage, on a personal level, and then also on a collective level.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I think today will be spent, exploring these webs of connections, not only within the city, but also, Trinity, just radiating out from Chicago too. We happily claim you, but your reach is far and wide, and I'm not certain people understand like the scope of that either. Can you just tell us a little bit about performing and sharing the form of Irish dance worldwide, really?
Yeah. So Mark, do you want to jump in there?
No, I love hearing you describe all of it.
So when the company was founded in 1990 and signed with their first agents, they started touring all across the country. That expanded to Europe and Asia. Trinity has a long-standing relationship with a presenter in Japan. So we were supposed to go there this past summer. We'll be headed back there the summer of 2022. And our presenter has told us we're the most toured foreign dance company in Japan. So when we land in Japan, it really does feel like a Beatles tour on some level. And Mark's influence in Japan is such that the first Irish dance schools opened up in Japan, and they're tied back to seeing Trinity and knowing of Trinity's work way back when. So the Japan influence is probably the strongest one and the most unique one, but we are touring all over North America. Margaret Selby is working hard to have a busy 21-22 season. Fingers crossed we can get on stage soon. But Mark's work has really influenced Irish dancing on a global level. So his work was one of a kind, as he said, in competition. Maybe it was criticized. They used to create rules in competition to stop Trinity from whatever new innovative thing they were doing. But in the performing arts, obviously, there's no rules, so we can live and continue to carry on this vocabulary that started with Mark and really only exists here. And that's coined progressive Irish dance, and that's something that we continue to change every day. And every time we work with a new guest artist, we gain some new ideas and morph into a new version of what Irish dance can be, always rooted in those traditions. But that vocabulary really has changed Irish dancing as a whole.
I think also a few years after the company's inception, that's when commercial Irish dance, hit television, and it became an obsession worldwide. And I had a very difficult time cutting through the noise of that when I would, be doing an interview, whether it wouldn't matter if it was the New York Times or the San Francisco Chronicle. Everybody wanted to ask me a question about river dance as opposed to the world premiere piece we were doing that particular evening. So I actually stepped away from this for a while. And I think Trinity Irish Dance Company is an idea whose the time has come. And I think it's gaining a lot of momentum because of that, that's always been there, this integrity and elevating an art form that to matter as opposed to just simply, being a form of entertainment. So I hope that this new sort of branch that's attached to the original seedling inspires more dance companies that are performing arts companies that are nonprofits or that live to evolve and push a form in the right direction, really, you know.
Yeah, I hope so too. And might I suggest Ted Levy as your next guest artist who dropped in for a minute. But yes, from one percussive art form to another. Yeah, thank you, Chelsea and Mark, for taking the time to talk with us today. And yeah, best wishes to you and Trinity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.